What if I told you that once there was a place on earth where there was no death, no shame, no fear, no suffering, a place where humanity walked with God face to face? Was it real? Was it symbolic? Or is it the greatest spiritual mystery ever written? Today, we ask the question that has haunted believers, skeptics, and philosophers for thousands of years. Is Eden paradise true? Part 1. The story of Eden. The story of Eden comes from the book of Genesis in the Bible. According to Scripture, God created a garden, a paradise, and placed the first humans there, Adam and Eve. The garden was described as abundant, beautiful, and perfect. There were rivers flowing from it, trees bearing fruit, peace between humanity and creation. In the center stood two trees, the tree of life, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and then came the moment that changed everything. The choice. The serpent tempts, Eve eats, Adam follows, innocence collapses, and paradise is lost. But here's the real question. Was this a literal place in history, or a spiritual message written in story form? Part 2. The religious view. Eden as a real place for billions of believers across Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Eden is not just poetry, it is history. The Bible even gives geographical clues. It mentions rivers, Pisian, Gihon, Tigris, Euphrates. The Tigris and Euphrates are real rivers that exist in modern-day Iraq. Some believe Eden may have been located in ancient Mesopotamia. Others believe the flood in Noah's time may have destroyed or altered its location. For believers, Eden represents more than geography. It represents humanity, its original purity, perfect unity with God, life before sin to them. Eden is true because Scripture is true. But faith and science often ask different kinds of questions. Part 3. The scientific perspective. From a scientific standpoint, there is no archaeological evidence proving the Garden of Eden existed as described in Genesis. There is no confirmed discovery of the tree of life, the flaming sword guarding the gate, or a walled paradise untouched by death. Modern anthropology shows humans evolved over long periods of time. There was no single first couple living in a magical garden, at least according to current scientific models. To science, Eden reads like a myth, similar to other ancient origin stories from Mesopotamia and surrounding cultures. But here's something interesting. Just because something is mythic does not mean it is meaningless, which brings us to a deeper layer. Part for Eden as symbol. Many theologians and scholars believe Eden may not be a literal garden, but a profound spiritual allegory. Think about it. What does Eden represent? It represents innocence before moral awareness, a time before shame, a time before separation, a time before death entered human experience. The tree of knowledge could symbolize consciousness, the awakening of moral awareness. When humanity gained knowledge of good and evil, we also gained guilt, fear, and self-awareness. Eden might be describing the psychological birth of humanity. The moment we became aware, the moment we stepped out of innocence and into responsibility. If that's true, then Eden is not just a location, it is a condition, a state of being. And we all know that state. It's childhood. Before we knew shame, before we knew fear, before we knew betrayal, we all had an Eden once, and we all lost it. Part 5. Why the story still matters, whether literal or symbolic. The story of Eden continues to shape the world. It answers deep human questions. Why is there suffering? Why do we feel separated from something greater? Why do we long for a paradise we've never seen? That longing, that ache, some call it nostalgia for heaven, others call it psychological memory, but it's universal. Every culture speaks of a lost golden age. Every civilization has a story of a time when things were better. Why? Maybe Eden isn't just about the past. Maybe it's about the future. In the book of Revelation, the Bible ends with paradise restored, a new heaven, a new earth. The tree of life appears again. The story begins with a garden and ends with a garden. It's a powerful symmetry. Part 6. So, is Eden true? Here's the honest answer. It depends on what you mean by true. If you mean, is there scientific proof of a literal magical garden? Then no, there is no verified physical evidence. If you mean, is it true within faith and theology? For believers, absolutely yes. If you mean, is it a story that explains the human condition with incredible depth? Then undeniably yes. Eden explains why we feel broken, why we feel separated, why we struggle with temptation, why we long for something pure. It speaks to something deep inside us. And that kind of truth is powerful. Final reflection. Maybe the real question isn't, was Eden a place? Maybe the real question is, why does the idea of Eden still move us? Why do we feel like strangers in our own world? Why does paradise feel familiar, even though we've never been there? Perhaps Eden is both, a memory written into the soul, and a promise written into the future, a beginning and an ending, a loss and a hope. So is Eden paradise true? That depends on whether you see truth only in what you can touch, or also in what you can feel. If you enjoy deep philosophical and biblical mysteries like this, subscribe. We're building something powerful here.